After trading Sean Monahan to the Winnipeg Jets, many people around the league and many fans of the league have started to realize that Kent Hughes is dominating in the GM game. Some of the moves he's made in his tenure with the Montreal Canadiens is absolutely insane. When you look at how it affects other players on the team, how it affects the Montreal Canadiens haven't seemed to lose a trade in their tenure at all with Kent Hughes. And we're going to be breaking down what other GMs need to do to follow along. What people are going to need to look at Kent Hughes and say, we need to do what he's doing. And we're going to break all of his moves down, everything he's been doing as to why he's been getting so much success he has been in this short time. But before we get into all of that, we notice that 83% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're looking for a spot to get all your daily NHL and Blackhawks news, you're in the right spot. Make sure to hit the sub button, stay a while so you don't miss out on any of the news as it happens. But like I said, we really need to talk about Kent Hughes here. This guy has been absolutely dominating the NHL in his short tenure. And like I said, he's winning everything. There's really no other way of putting it that people are going to need to start copying what he's doing. People are going to need to take notes about what Kent Hughes is doing because he's been making, incredible moves for the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah. The first one obviously came out here today, or not the first one, but the most recent one that made people actually start to realize this was the trade for Sean Monahan. After acquiring him from the Calgary Flames for nothing, literally nothing, they were able to get a first-round pick and a conditional third in exchange for him from the Winnipeg Jets. Now, I know that you like Kent Hughes a lot, and I know that you enjoy this trade a lot, but what do you think about this move, and then how this is, it's very similar to all of Kent Hughes' other moves that he's made?
Yeah, well, I mean, they acquired Sean Monahan from the Flames and a first-round pick for future considerations, which is pretty much essentially, we'll say nothing. Just give the benefit of the doubt, we'll say nothing. And then they take him after he had, I think, he played 1 year in Montreal, and it was injury-riddled, so they didn't really get to see his full potential. Signed him back for 1 year at almost $2 million. Then that's this year, he went on an absolute tear. I think he had 35 or 36 points this year on a really bad Montreal team. And then they were able to get a first-round pick. So they got 2 first-round picks for taking Calgary scraps in Sean Monahan, which is just, that's when you put it all together and when you think about it, 2 first-round picks, like that's an elite caliber player to get, if like exchanged. Like I think like 2 first-round picks for an elite player is, pretty good. So are you trying to say that Sean Monahan is an elite caliber player? I mean,
he's definitely good, and the Winnipeg Jets are definitely going on a run.
Yeah.
But a first-round pick and a third-round pick for a guy like Sean Monahan, although the center, the trade bait of centerman in this year's trade deadline is limited, I still don't know if Sean Monahan is really worth a first. So, that kind of just shows the power that Kent Hughes had. There's a lot of he has a lot of leverage on this team, and it's like what he's done. I have a list here from I'm not sure this Twitter user, just kind of a list of what he's done. Now, this was on April 20th, 2023, but this is just a good list of what he's done from the beginning of his Montreal tenure until that point. And even after that, he's made so many other good runs. You can see, like, Matheson for a fourth for Petrie and Paling, Monahan for a first and first for future considerations, like we just said, turning Alexander Romanov, who was good with the Montreal Canadiens, we haven't heard much from recently, into Kirby Dach, who we know, from the Chicago point of view, he had potential. He really did have potential. Yep. Getting a first for Ventura, another thing that's kind of unheard of, you wouldn't really think that would be a possibility. Turning Kulak into a pick that became Lane Hutson, another one that we're going to be talking about later, and establishing an analytics department. Just some of those moves right there in that short of a tenure is something that you don't see very often in like newer GMs. GMs aren't really going out to make as many moves as possible in this short amount of time, especially moves that benefit the team this much. And I think, call me wrong if you want, but I think many other NHL GMs, there's not many like Kent Hughes, need to follow suit in doing what he's doing. Start taking risks. A lot of these probably seem like a risk initially, but knowing what they turn into, I think it is a very good move. Another one I want to talk about here, this is something that I really think Kyle Davidson should start doing this season at the trade deadline, is going into trades that, you really have no right in being in. This example here, the Montreal got involved in the Erik Karlsson trade to the Pittsburgh Penguins, taking Jeff Petrie for the cap, flipping him immediately, getting Casey DeSmith, who they got for Tanner Pearson afterwards, and a second-round pick. Montreal, let's just say, in no right had any right getting in this trade. Getting rid of Rem Pitlick and Mike Hoffman, too, those just bonuses on top of that. So, I think that Kyle Davidson needs to follow suit in this, definitely. But no, I know you were happy when that trade went down. There was a lot of stuff that benefited the Canadiens, even though they really didn't need to get involved. It's something that it's just a bonus on top of it. So, what do you think Do you think Kyle Davidson should get involved in something like this going into this season?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much flexibility now. I mean, the drafts these days are stacked. I mean, we're like you said about Lane Hutson going 62nd overall there, I think in 2022. I mean, that's a second round pick, and if you look at that kid, I mean, that kid is I can't even find the words to describe that how talented he is. But like drafts are getting deeper, talent is getting there. You don't know what you could get with even a fourth or a fifth round pick nowadays. So I mean, if you want, I mean, obviously the Blackhawks are in no position to win now and take on players. So I mean, they take on cap, like I think it was 25% of Erik Karlsson, or I'm not sure how that was rigged up there, but you take on a certain chunk of change, and you get a fourth or a fifth round pick. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, really.
No, I mean, there's no downside to it. You're taking on the cap for 1 year for retaining that, so a playoff team is able to get him. You get a pick in exchange. It's not hurting you at all this season. It's not like the Blackhawks are cap stricken. They're barely at the cap floor, let alone, at near the top of the cap. So maybe even taking 50% or 25% or whatnot of a player heading to a playoff-bound team, someone who's making a good bit of money that likely is going to get traded. I think the Blackhawks should try and put their name out there, see if they can get a pick out of it, see if something can come out of this where, they get a bonus by a pick or a prospect or something like that. Over the past few years, we've seen both of those an option. So I think that the Blackhawks definitely need to get involved some way, whether it be with multiple, like we've seen with the Minnesota Wild last year, whether it be with one big player or not. They have too good of an opportunity to waste on this. But, back to Kent Hughes' stuff as well. It's not even just the trades. It's not even just the draft picks. It's also the extensions, Like you said, no. Well, obviously we have Lane Hutson, the pick that we're still going to be talking about in a bit. But signing Cole Caufield at $7.85 million for 7 or 8 years. I can't exactly remember which one. That contract is going to look like nothing in a few years. Right now, that's still it's a big contract, but it's not as big as some other players are getting. That's not anything near what some of the top players in the league are making. Knowing the cap's going to go up projected $4 million this offseason, and even more the few seasons after, this is going to look like a really good contract down the line. So, once again, I think people starting to need to follow suit on, taking leadership, putting out a number there and just letting people work with that. Obviously Cole Caufield had a lot to show still when he got earned that contract. A lot of people were thinking that maybe it's a bit too much due to injuries and everything where he hasn't fully shown his potential. But that's what I mean. Like, we've seen Kent Hughes take advantage of that and put that on the table. It's like, you still have a lot to prove, but we're still going to pay you. Like, no, I know you like this contract as well. I know you really like this contract. So what do you think about that in the style of a GM, that contract style?
I think a big factor in the dollar amount, like the amount, was the fact that Nick Suzuki was also making 7.85. And I think it was very out there that they didn't want to pay anybody anything else with or anything any more than what they're paying Nick Suzuki, which goes to show. I mean, Kent Hughes is very committed to making this team work in the salary cap. We've seen they were rumored, or I think they were the favorite to get Pierre-Luc Dubois, but they didn't want to give him the money that LA gave him at the 8.85, 8 years at 8.5, which obviously that looks terrible now, but we won't get into that. But I think, the fact that he stood firm and said, we're not paying you any more than our captain, the face of our franchise, I think it goes to show a lot. And I know in this stage of the game, obviously we know the cap's going up, and we know players are going to want crazy amounts of money, but it also shows that you want to play for this guy and you want to be a part of this team, and he's building something special. It's really, really exciting. I gotta say.
Yeah, no, even from an outside standpoint of just watching what he's doing, it's to a point now where you have to say this is getting ridiculous. How many trades, how many signings, how many draft picks that he's winning on. That he really is taking advantage of the most opportunities he can get, and you can see once again. Let's talk about this here. The Lane Hutson pick right at the end of the second round. This guy's being compared to Cale Makar. Now, obviously, size is a factor, but once again, that can change a lot by the time he gets to the NHL.
Absolutely.
Kent Hughes knows that this is not going to be a pick that is going to be straight to the NHL. There's going to be some work that has to be done, but he was willing to do it. He had the staff to do it. He made, this whole team what it is right now. And, we've seen what the Montreal team is not very good right now, but I think they're exceeding expectations from what people expected, what people wanted them to do. What people wanted them to do this season. So, Kent Hughes alone, I think, is really making this team change a lot from what they have been over the past few seasons. But, there's still so many other things that we didn't talk about, like the new Hook signing from Colorado when they traded it for him, signing Martin St. Louis as their head coach, a move that had a bit of risk, but he put his trust in Martin St. Louis that he was able to do it. He gave his trust in him. And we've seen what these two, along with Jeff Gorton, have been able to do with this team in this short amount of time. So, I really think Montreal has a big opportunity over the next few years. A lot of people should be following suit of the Montreal Canadiens and Kent Hughes, knowing that with a bit of, I don't even know what the word would be there, but whatever he's doing, people need to follow suit. That's just kind of the bottom line here. It's been obviously working for the Montreal Canadiens. If any other GM goes and tries it, I think that they might be heading in a great direction, Kyle Davidson, take some notes if you haven't already. I do think that you might want to follow a bit of this stuff going forward, but a lot of moves from Kent Hughes, a lot of good stuff coming, but that's really all we got. Any final thoughts on this before we sign out here?
Yeah, Kent Hughes seems to be sort of paving the path for most GMs. I mean, we've seen it with Stevie Yzerman for years and years, and Kent Hughes sort of kind of has taken that path, and I think it's gonna set the path for other GMs easily.
I mean, he got to at this point, where you can get Monahan for 2 firsts for nothing. Really, it's kind of just something like that. Don't seem right to me, but that's going to be for another day. But that's all we got. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like. Make sure to hit the sub button as well if you haven't already. We post just about daily Blackhawks and NHL content, so if you don't want to miss any of that, make sure to hit the sub button. That's all we got. We're signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.